Hey guys, welcome back to Mo's Game Table. Today we're going to take a look inside Russia Besieged Deluxe Edition. This is a game designed by Art Lupinacci and published by Compass Games. This was originally published in 2004 through L2, and it has now gotten the deluxe treatment from Compass Games. I recently got a copy of this, and I wanted to share a look inside with you. So let's take a look at the back of the box and see what this game's all about. You only have to kick in the door and the whole rotten structure will come crashing down. Adolf Hitler, June 1941. On June 22, 1941, Nazi Germany unleashes the most advanced military technique of the time on the Soviet Union, Blitzkrieg. Almost 4 million Axis forces poured across the Soviet frontier and in 4 short months stood poised on the very gates of Moscow as the world held its breath. Deluxe Russia Besieged allows you to recreate the entire campaign from 1941 to 1945 with core and army level units. The game features a double impulse movement system, step reduction counters, war economy, and novel air and sea movement system that captures the ebb and flow of the campaign. Deluxe Russia Besieged is a classic hex-based wargame that allows you to take command to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat based on your strategic skills. And there's an example of the map and the counters, and over here it says it is rated as a complexity 7. The playing time is from 3 to 24 hours, 528 counters, a 35 by 47 inch map, and it is high on the solitaire rating. And again, the components are listed out here as a 35 by 47 inch map, rulebook, playbook, 3 counter sheets, a game turn track, 2 order of battle setup cards, 3 player aid cards, 1 scenario start lines card, and 1 D10. So let's take a look inside and see what you get. All right, we get our D10, our playbook, rulebook, player aid cards, a whole bunch of those. That's our turn track, our counter sheets, and our maps. So let's set up the map, take a closer look at the game. And here's a look at the map that comes with the game. There are 2 separate sheets. You lay one on top of the other to create the entire map. But as you can see, it's a large map, fills pretty much the entire frame, and the text on it is very easy to read, which us older guys definitely appreciate. The terrain is very easy to understand and beautifully done. There's only 2 charts on the entire map, which is the available invasions in the Black Sea and also in the Baltic Sea on the far left. Other than that, everything will be on the player aids that come with the game. Now we'll take a look at the player aids that come with the game. This gives you your Lend-Lease Russian aid table, sea movement table, Axis infantry replacement points, Axis armor replacement points, Russian and German rail capacity charts, and then your out of supply reduced production oil wells table. And on the back we have the bomber availability chart for both the Axis and the Soviet forces. Then we have the terrain effects chart that lists the terrain type, the effect on movement, and effect on combat. And it continues on the back with the rest of the terrain. And here are your combat tables. You get your CRT, Blitzkrieg attack table, combat die roll modifiers, air support chart, and Russian victory chart at the bottom. And unfortunately, it looks like the spell check was off on that day because Blitzkrieg is spelled incorrectly. On the back, we have our weather table and the movement allowance chart. And we have the scenario setup cards for the Germans. This is Fallblau on the front. And on the back is the downfall scenario. And likewise, same for the Soviets. Setup for the Fallblau scenario on the front and the downfall scenario on the back. And a setup sheet that gives you the graphical start line for the Fallblau scenario on the front, and then for a Citadel on the back. Then we have the German Order of Battle card, which gives you all of your start groups and your reinforcement schedule. And likewise, we have the same for the Soviet Order of Battle. And the final foldout is the turn track, which is more than just turn track. It's actually kind of like each player's dashboard as well as the turn track. You have your turn track along the top, also lists out your Soviet and German reinforcement schedules, your leader box for the Germans, German reserves, and then the weather box. Over here you have your Russian reserves, Russian leader box, war economy and oil production for the Russians. Then you have the capturing Berlin and eliminating Hitler box, which tells you that the Soviets get an immediate victory with that, and the same on the other side for the Germans. If you capture Moscow and eliminate Stalin, it is an immediate German victory. Also on the German side, you have the Axis accumulated replacement point track and the German victory track. Now we'll take a look at the 3 counter sheets that come with the game. Here we are looking at the German counters. They are all 5/8 inch counters. These are both Wehrmacht, SS, and Allied forces. You have Italians, Hungarians, Romanians, so on and so forth here for the Germans. And here are the Soviet counters. We have a mix of guard and infantry units, along with an assortment of administrative counters. Then the third sheet has Turkish units, shock troops, breakdown counters, and a whole assortment of administrative counters to use in the game. And we'll take a look at the rulebook. It is a 48-page full-color rulebook. Don't let the page count fool you, though, because the text in this rulebook is fairly large. So that's going to add to the page count, and there are a lot of illustrated examples of play. You have the table of contents, which lists out the different rule cases and the associated page number. Playing piece information and symbology is broken down for you in the front, as is the colors of the nationality of each of the counters in the game. And then you have your introduction and component list. This gives you a breakdown of all of the counters in the game and how to read them. Then we get into the sequence of play and all the associated steps within each of the phases. Illustrated example for zones of control and stacking. Ground movement with illustrated examples. Leningrad Ice Road, rail movement, continues on with the Russian rail capacity chart, and then how to convert rail lines. Again, more illustrated examples. Then we get into sea movement, all the different aspects of sea movement, including the Caspian Sea. And then we get into automatic victory and how to handle automatic victory and what happens afterwards. Then we have our combat section, which has multiple illustrated examples of play and notes. Step losses, surrender, elimination, retreats, how those are all handled, and then advance after combat. Then we get into air ground support and air bases, all different aspects of air combat, artillery. Then we have our supply, and there's plenty of supply in this game. General supply path, unlimited supply sources, limited supply sources from major cities, and then special supply cases and combat supply, Caucasus Mountain region supply. As I said, lots of supply aspects in this game. Dictators and field marshals, how you handle the loss of a dictator and then how you can evacuate them. You have your field marshals here, Russian airdrops. And we have partisans and how those are handled in the game. There are actually two stages for partisans. Partisans initially have no combat value, and then in 1943 they gain a 1 combat value. Then we get to reinforcements. Release of the Trans-Caucasus garrison units, Axis reinforcements, withdrawing units, replacements, and how those are handled in the game. And then all the different replacement pieces, including Lend-Lease, and then the war economy, oil wells, and then Russian shock armies. Then we have the game start initial setup and the first turn special rules, because things are going to be a little different on the first turn, as they are in a lot of these games. Special Axis minor ally restrictions and surrender of Axis minor allies. Victory conditions are explained here. And then you have your rules index here on page 42. And then 3rd edition developers notes here on page 44, which carry over to the designer's notes from page 46 to the back of the book. And we'll take a look inside the playbook. This is also a 48-page full-color book. Inside you have your table of contents, which breaks down the advanced rules that go from page 2 to 17. Then you have your quick start, which starts on 17 and goes all the way to 28. Then your scenarios start on 29 all the way through to 34. And then there is a scenario variant on 35, player's notes at the last couple pages. So we have the advanced game optional rules starting off on page 2. How to have advanced rules for reserves, breakout attempt and encirclement, defensive use of air, historical weather, frozen lakes and rivers, Siberian troops, Vlasov's army, German paratroops, escalated Spanish involvement, Battle of the Bulge, German North Africa, aid for the Axis partners, moderated Soviet purges, French volunteers, shock armies, Operation Barbarossa, the Generals' War, and then how your setup is handled for that, because it's going to be done in secret. Multiple impulse placements, rail movement, retreat confusion, snow, river defenses, weather die roll modifiers, vanity field marshals, initiative. And it's funny because it says vanity field marshal here. You got Art Lupinacci, who is the designer of the game. He has his own counter in the game, as a designer should. I think it's a lot of fun. Kim Kanger has that in a couple of his games as well. Then you have your optional CRT tables, weather tables, bomber extended rage rule, and then you have your combat tables in here. Blitzkrieg, same thing we've already seen, and that's one of the best parts about not only the rule book, but the player aids. They're all written in big text, as is the map. Then you have your movement combat examples here, starting on page 17. Really big, easy to read examples of play for different aspects of the game, how to use the turn record cards, which we've already looked at, the replacement tracks, sea invasion control boxes, Murmansk emergency rail line activation, victory tracks, again, more illustrated examples, all the way to combat supply, how to make a shock army, oil well production increase, your war economy evacuation, and then you have scenarios starting here on page 29. And they have the 5-turn tournament scenario, and we have our 7-turn tournament scenario, 10-turn, and then the Fallblau scenario, Citadel, and Downfall. Then we have the Turkish entry scenario variant, which is in addition to the other scenarios in the game. It explains to you how that's handled. Then we have some generic rules for that. And then the order of battle for the Turkish entry scenario. Then we have the player's notes here on the back of the book. And that is a look at everything you get inside of Russia Besieged Deluxe Edition, a game designed by Art Lupinacci and published by Compass Games. And as you can see, very high quality production in this title. I really love the size of the text in this game. It is fantastic, easy to read, and that is something that, you know, us older gamers really appreciate. Everything is easy to read. You can look at this chart from across the table and see it. You don't have to break out the magnifying glass and, you know, have that thing in front of you, which is great. Same with the player aid cards. Very easy to read. Counters, very easy to read. Rule books, playbooks, all very easy to read. That is fantastic. The rulebook has great illustrated examples of play, something I always talk about. Love having those. Full color is always a plus as well. Playbook has everything you need in it, including all your advanced optional rules as well as the scenarios in the game. So pretty much anything you'd ever want, if you've ever wanted to play this game, is in this deluxe edition. Well, I hope that helps you guys out if you've been curious about this one. If you have any comments or questions, post them down below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.